First up in the Meet the Intellectual Dark Web series is none other than the man who coined the term intellectual dark web, Eric Weinstein. Eric is a mathematician with a PhD from Harvard University. He has recently been active in promoting critical thought free from the societal constructs that can imprison our minds and keep us from seeing the world for what it is. He has been featured on The Rubin Report, The Joe Rogan Experience, The Tim Ferriss Show, and many more. Weinstein coined the term intellectual dark web during a podcast sit-down with fellow IDW members Sam Harris and Ben Shapiro. As you will hear, he explains that this group is made up of people who have the ability to avoid being captured by one ideology or another. Meet intellectual dark web member Eric Weinstein.
There is this group of people that have gotten privileges to write to imaginary newspapers that never existed. If you have a Twitter following of over 10,000 people, the thing that used to control the coherence was this thing I call the gated institutional narrative. And you couldn't write to it unless you lived at one of these institutions, like Harvard or the New York Times or the Senate. And what is now happening is that we recognize that the reporter who reports for the New York Times is just one more voice, not necessarily more interesting. And in general, these people do not want to talk to us. We have a much easier time talking amongst ourselves, despite the apparent frictions and differences, because there is this different substrate of conversation that's available to you. So, you know, what I would really consider the bright spot in this for me is meeting about 25 people who are somehow neither becoming troglodytes by falling off the A-frame roof of reason in this direction, you know, nor dupes by falling off in the others, right? They're not deplorable and they're not captured. And so if you can find this group of people, this is the really interesting thing to watch, because I think this intellectual dark web is what we're supposed to reboot from.